Very good afternoon. How are you doing? Good morning.
So, a short audience. This is interesting today. There's no remote participation, but this will be recorded, so you are now on the screen. You're being recorded. Small group. This is interesting. You're here because you have interest in the mobility program, particularly for US destinations. So, I understand that you have different backgrounds.
I don't know. This is a very small group. Good afternoon. It's interesting to know how many of you are here for master thesis mobility, and how many of you are here for bachelor thesis mobility. The rest. Cool. So potentially both groups are eligible. Potentially, it is true that generally U.S. professors tend to prefer master semester. Doesn't mean that bachelors cannot go, but on average we have 70% on masters, 50% on bachelors. Now,
why are we here today? So, not really because we want to explore the potential of going to the US. It's not the country that matters. It's the fact that this will be a research-oriented mobility, different to other mobility programs. And it's not Erasmus. You need to know that the US mobility program that we have in our school,
I like that. It's one of the strongest programs of interaction with you. Erasmus framework. You don't go just there for visit. You don't go to the US to do courses, just to visit. And the visit is research oriented.
it's a very important clarification. Many details that will go. I will be very fast, 20 minutes, presenting you the underlying principles of what the US host professors do in you, and then I will just go through the destination. Please interrupt me, ask any question. We'll have a short group. Let's leverage that. There you go. We're talking about
10 months from now to
more than a year. We need to anticipate movement. In the past 2 years, we have been struggling for active reasons, including COVID. The group of 8 students, eight colleagues of you that are going there now in February. You feel a bit of vertigo, that's normal. Any mobility experiences should be something. It's a bit scary. Going to the US for research, a bit more. But we're here to assist. So the focus of this meeting is you. I'm here to assist you. There you go.
So this is a research-oriented master thesis. That's the primary goal of mobility with you. But it's not exclusive. If you have a moderately good academic file, not to our judgment, not to the standard of the school, to the judgment and the standard of the US host, then you can also do a bachelor. So if you go there, I don't know your experience with this, you will need to, sorry for starting with the formalism, but you need to take a J1 visiting scholar visa, which is exactly the same visa that a professor that visits the US or sabbatical take for a PhD student. You go there as a graduate student doing this, even if you're an undergraduate. Right? So, very unfortunately, not covering expenses. We've not. So 10 years ago, when I was in charge of all international mobility, there were agreements with companies and banks that were helping with grants. Not sure anymore. So in principle, you need to understand that you invest in your experience. What's the school offering you? The contact and the business. There is no grant. But I wouldn't say most of you, but a relevant part of students that go into the US mobility end up, and there is no guarantee up front, but colleagues of you remember, we have been sending students to the US for 15 years, probably 500 students. There's a lot of experience. Then every case is different, and we need to, opposite to Erasmus mobility, we will need to personalize every single case of you. Today we'll talk about the general principles, then I will need to interview you, to understand you better, to have a good fit, and accompany you to the successful experience. So it's a very personalized mobility program. And usually in our school, around 10-ish students do this experience. But we've done this with 500 students in the past, right? Then I was saying there's no guarantee up front, but a relevant part of you end up taking a TA or an RA grant. You know what a TA is or an RA is? A teaching assistantship or a research assistant, the grant. You go there, the professor builds trust in you, and then they offer you that. But you need to come with that at the beginning, there's no problem. So please consider this as an investment in your career, in your professional path, in your experience. Now, let me clarify something. This is not going to the US for the sake of the US. I understand that some of you would like to go surfing in California, be able to in Boston, that's legitimate, that's fine. No, you go to a country where most of the best research in the world happens. That happens to be. You're not looking for the American experience, you're looking for a research experience in some of the best research universities and institutes in the world. So yes, not giving numbers, but yes, you can anticipate that the true threshold is a strong academic focus. What is a strong academic file? More subtle. I won't be here to judge you, I will be here to assist which destination is more suitable to your. So this is about cost, no courses. This is not Erasmus. Do you have any comments here? You don't? But no courses. Why? Not that we don't want to. You need to be ready and cover all the courses to do the kids that go in, and then US positions are a possibility. But no courses. We cannot co-validate. This is not an Erasmus agreement with a European university where you can co-validate. But no courses. Because if you need to take courses in the US, you need to pay tuition. Anyone has an insight, an order of magnitude on the tuition of 1 year in the US? Who is?
15,000.
15,000. Depending on the destination, depending upon whether you go to Texas A&M or you go to MIT, it could be 40K, 80K, 150K. One course, 1 year long. So you cannot just take courses for tuition. Since you will be visiting students or researchers in a lab, the tuition free, for no courses. But only those of you that will be eligible in courses. The name of the game. We are not imposing that. It's a matter of visibility. Now, but that also will incur in a very special visa. You will be visiting as a student and travel. You will visit as a PhD researcher. And again, we've been doing this with 500 of you. So don't worry, you're covered. Right? Just need to clarify the principle. Because it's very important. Not only we really need to personalize and you need to understand very much who you are and what your interests are. And then we'll do this on a one-to-one ad hoc basis. So we'll accompany you to the very last moment. We'll get to meet you, we'll assist in which destinations better suit your profile. You won't be alone. So those that will be selected, there will be a competitive process. Anytime you apply for a US and you don't get a position, right? So sometimes we need to say, well, you don't have enough feet into this position. But if we nominate you, the likelihood that you end up with a successful expert is very high, based on our experience. 90%. Right? So we need to do a very, very detailed one-to-one. This is not, hey, there are 100 destinations for Erasmus in Europe. Just apply. Oh, I've got to do the paperwork on Erasmus. Right? Be prepared to have a couple of meetings and then track the process. It is worthwhile. It is worthwhile. The effort from your side will be here. Any general question on the conditions? Feel free to interrupt and ask questions. Spanish, Catalan, Esperanto, British. Now, which are the criteria that we will check and that the host professors will check. One is, what's your academic? An academic file is not an average mark. People say, do I need to have an average to be able to go to MIT? No, there's no list. Now, you are something richer than just a number. So we'll try to read the angles and understand how you feel. But yes, on average, you need strong academic. But don't ask about what's the level. Oh, if I have a 7.5 on average, can I go to Cornell? It's not that easy. But you need strong academic. I think that is a clear requisite. It is welcome. It's not common, but it's welcome if you have research experience, either in summer internships, research institutes or companies, or whether you have some research experience across your studies. And that's not very common, but if you have it, it's a plus. And if you don't have it, perhaps it's worthwhile to consider doing so in the months to come to improve the likelihood that you're accepted. But then, on top of this formal requirements, what you really need to have is a genuine interest and willingness. Try and explore the research experience. If you go to Boston, you don't go. If you go to Boston, you will enjoy Boston a lot. That's no. But you don't go there to visit Boston. Go to visit on the side of the main. You go there to do research. It has to be something a very clear passion. Interest. Questions on this? It's tangible. I can measure this. I need to see your blinking eye saying, I want to try this. Don't be too scared. This is just to clarify the context. It shouldn't scare you. They should push you to try this. And again, we go to the destinations. Again, to scare you. Around 10 of you do this every day. You can do it very successful. You very much qualified about it. I'm going to get a motivational speech. The evidence of the past. You're the present of the future. There you go. Any general question? Okay. Can we go through destinations? These are the destinations we offer. We'll go through 15-ish, 20 positions. 20 positions. That's the list that will go. Remember, as the Associate Dean Jose Lacaro presented a couple of weeks ago. Jose, good afternoon. Would you like, I was just mentioning your name. Can you imagine? What a coincidence. Would you like to make an introduction with us, if you want? I was just saying, Associate Dean Professor Jose Lacaro did an introduction for the program. The positions I'm presenting today will be part of the offer. And whenever you go through the application process, then you have crystal clear notion that you want to go to the US and you qualify. I just went through the criteria. You think that you qualify. That's something you need to want, or you need to think, you need to touch. In the first interview, everyone calling for US position would need to go for an interview. And again, this interview is not to assess you, it's to assist you in identifying which is the best destination. So you need to apply to this 5 destinations. If everyone has a good academic file, a clear decision to go to the US, then you have this position to be for the local. Some of you will apply to just 2 of them, US and the rest of the world, Europe, Erasmus, and so on. Anyone who has any interest in the US will reach out to applicant. Right? So it's a very personalized process. Right? So that being said, let's go to the cool side of the presentation. Talk about that. But I need to know whether anyone of you in the audience has been in the US university. Is it in one? Only one? One? It's 15 that want to try. Okay. There you go. So Northeastern University in Boston, and I will just try to help ranking them. Ranking is something very delicate. Try to rank them.
so that you try to match to your profile. What's the caliber, the ranking of these universities compared to your caliber in terms of academic file, potential and caliber, and in terms of topic fit? You will see that we don't have a destination at Northeastern University, like any place, like in Erasmus. If you go to an Erasmus position, you go to university and then you look for professors. No. We have lists which incorporate a particular name, a particular topic. So the Sudoku that you need to solve now with our help is that how do you match and fit your academic file with a destination? Again, to maximize the likelihood that eventually you're accepted. And also, another mention, the topic fit. Oh, I would love to go to do data, not to do AI for image processing, not to do chip design. Right? Those are two independent dimensions. Here. Now, who knows? Northeastern University is in Boston. One of the most academically thriving cities in the US and in the world. Have you heard about Northeastern? So it's a bit eclipsed by Harvard and MIT. It's a very strong university. In our field, AA, electrical engineering, AA, telecom, electronics, at large, is usually ranking from 20 to 40. It's not a top-notch university, it's a very, very notable university. It is in Boston. Just cross the Charles River from MIT, you go to Northeastern. We have 3 positions, there are 2 more, I think. One will be signal processing for underwater communications. This Professor Milica Stojanovic, he was 10 years in MIT, working at the MIT Signal College program, working in PhD. This is years ago with Prague. I think that if you went to signal processing, you learn from the book Prague. So this is a hardcore signal processing topic, but for the application of underwater. They work in underwater UAVs to do ocean exploration. And now I think they work at the network level. They have swarms of UAVs exploring the ocean. So there are network protocols, very specific physical layers of underwater communication, which are very dispersed media. Then we have a group working in image and video processing for biohealth. Particularly, they're working in images of the brain. Up to now was Dana Brooks, now with Hirotomi. There's another professor, both done something, but it's the same topic. Then we have another destination, and Professor Kaushik Chaudhary, and they work in wireless sensor networks. So if you wanted to know about wireless sensors in this destination. Now, if you please again stop and interrupt and ask questions out of curiosity, out of interest, just glimpsing through some information that's not written. This will be available. I give you a bit more detail. Now, let me say 2 things. Whenever you decide that 2 feet, whenever you need to do the short listing and the ranking of the destination, it is 1, how close am I to that level? And second, how is the feet in terms of topic, technical thing? These are just 2 very aseptic keywords. I tried to give you more details. The 2 details is that to go and browse the research web page of the professors, or you go into the Google Scholar profile and to see the paper that they published. This will give you a more up-to-date, timely information on the topics that they pursue research now. That's the only reason, and I see Professor Nalato there, this is the only reason why the name is here. That you can go there and look in the research. But a red line, like a true red line of the our code of ethics of behavior, true red line would be that you contact before you're nominated. That would be a reason for a disciplinary action. Not that we don't want to, but please bear in mind that this professor, we've been interacting with them in the past 10 plus years.
They trust that whenever we nominate someone, that person usually is a good fit and experience is fruitful and successful. If you candidly approach them and say, hey, I'm a student from W school, can you describe your topic? Then they think that you're not. That creates tension between you and others. Right? So the process is very clear. Never, ever, by no means, contact the professor until it was.
Just to comment, this is not just a rule for mobility to the United States.
For everyone.
It's a common rule for all mobility, as I was also saying, for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just reinforce that. Just that's common sense. But just go and browse the research. And if you have a colleague who's a recent graduate student from 2 years ago that you know, talk to them. Don't talk to them. That veto is very strong because you can alter the relationship with them. Because the host professor also naively will say, oh, that's the nominee. You're not the nominee. Right? Don't worry, we'll tell you at which moment. So now you browse information, you do your mental ranking of destinations, and we have the interview. You apply for that. There is a competitive process. You are assigned to that. And then we do the nomination. And when the host professor says, I think the candidate is strong, then we bridge you to the professor. Does it make sense? But not before. Under no conditions. By no means. Right? So, you cross the Charles River. There is a university that has 3 capital letters. KPH, Stockholm, MIT. I've heard about it. Usually, one student goes there every year, 1 or 2. 2 is nothing. So don't ask this legitimate question for any destination, particularly not from IT. Oh, which is the average market rate for that? This is not a market process. This is not offer and demand. No guarantee that someone will go there. We just can tell you that in the past, 1 or 2 students a year, they go there. And they have a successful. Whom that is, we need to have something special. Right? That's for us, the job, and they trust our insight because we have been sending students that end up in a fruitful relationship for many years. Now, topic-wise, we have destinations in Professor Antonio Torrado, who coincidentally was an alumnus from our school. He's now a full professor in charge of the AI lab, so artificial intelligence for computer vision. It's one of the top-notch, biggest names in computer vision in the world, literally. A very large group. I could tell you anecdotes, but I won't end today. Now, there's another destination, which is Professor Ed Crowley. I tell you about it. So for those of you that went through our undergrad program and enjoyed the CDIO track and take time, Ed Crowley is the father of that. He was the head of the Aeroastro department, the one who was advising NASA for future missions. He's working in complex spacecraft mission, but from a communications perspective. So that's why there's been the telecoms. I don't know how familiar you are with spacecraft design, but most of the future missions include communication. So many applications have to do with distributed, decentralized, centralized satellite architectures. And wireless sensor networks with the Internet of spacecraft. Small satellites that work in a constellation. You need to understand. That's why the speed of telecom is low. Then we do also have a contract with Professor Bergit, who works in optoelectronic chips. So this is silicon photonics. You are interested in what happens at the verge of optoelectronic optics and chip design. There's a place here. Silicon photonics. For many applications, among others, silicon photonic evolution chip, the future chip. So this is a position on optics, integrated optics, nano-optics for chip design. Then we still stay, it's not really Boston, this is you take 50 miles in Massachusetts. We go to UMass, University of Massachusetts. And then this destination is the place to be if you like antenna design for radar. The place to be. For those of you that underwent the specialization topic in antenna design, I'm assuming that you went to the textbook from Bothar. Bothar is professor in Europe. It's the group that really work in state-of-the-art antenna design, particularly for radar. Not so electromagnetics, numerical methods for antenna. Again, this is just a few threads of additional information. Just go into this web page. It's either the web page from the research lab hosted at the university, or go directly to the Google Scholar profile. Is everyone familiar with Google Scholar? So as a habit, if you are ever interested in true scientific knowledge, don't go Google, go Google Scholar. Everything you find there, it's solid, has been improved, it has been published, solid scientific. So there you'll see exactly what they're doing now. And that's the best estimate, but it's not a guarantee on the topic you will do. So the only thing we can know is that Professor Steve Fraser, now in 2021, just published a paper on the data for a telescope. Is that a guarantee that that will be a topic? No. That's the best proxy, the best estimate. But this information is non-binary. Whenever you go to the US, you don't define the topic. You define the area. And then the topic the professor will carry. And some of these researchers are some of the best of the world in their field. Who knows what they think about to go in terms of future research vision. But don't think, I want to define crisp and clear the topic before I go. No. But that's a natural process. On the other side, the Anglo-Saxon style usually is very much open to your interests, your vision. So at the beginning of the stage, they talk to you very much. What do you know? What do you think about? You participate in this. Any questions? No? Let's leave the East Coast. Let's go south. Anyone knows anything about Atlanta? That has, apart from having headquarters at Coca-Cola, which I don't can, but you have plenty of caffeine to do research. It hosts Georgia Tech, which in doubling in electrical engineering in our field, is usually ranking number 4, 5, or 6. After Princeton, Cornell, MIT, sometimes Harvard, it's usually that 4, 5, 6. That's Georgia Tech. And depending on the particular field, it really, it's a top-notch university. Now we have, depending on his move, we have a destination in Professor Ian Achilles. He was the father, he was the father of wireless instrumentals 20 years ago. Generally, anything that's related to wireless communication. In the past, he has been working in reconfigurable electromagnetic surfaces or beyond 5G, terahertz communication, space net. So we'll find it working. I think that he's about to retire. That's for you to judge. You prefer to go to someone who has a big name, but he's already consolidated. You prefer to piggyback into a rising star. That is a very delicate position. Now, we have a younger professor, Tushar Krishna, who got a PhD from MIT 6 years ago. And now he's a rising star in Georgia Tech. He's working in communication problems, hardcore communication problems, but within architectures for artificial intelligence. In AI, there are problems, there are computing problems. don't use general computers to solve AI. These are specific processors, needed that. That's not just a chip design problem. He's not working in electronics, he's working in computing architecture. He addresses the communication problems for those scalable computer architectures as machine learning coprocessors. Then we go north a bit, and we go to NYU in Brooklyn, Poly Brooklyn, the very well-known historical engineering school, Brooklyn, right adjacent to Manhattan. It's part of the NYU system. We have Professor Dariusz Sharkowski. Anyone who's interested in electronics or energy, to work in electronic converters for avionics and the NATO systems. He recently was called for the Boeing, if I'm not mistaken. Then we stay in the New York area. We go to New Jersey IT, which is, remember that there are 3 airports in New York. This is just far Newark, which is what it's here. But it's not in Manhattan, it's New York. And then we have New Jersey IT, and we have Professor Raquel Pérez Castillejos, who originally lived in UCLA, and she worked in lab on a chip for bio. Designing microfluidics or chips for doing biological experiments on a lab on a chip platform. Then, well, this is a misnomer. So I'm using a presentation from past year, so take a note. Those of you that came here, you can take the note. So this is not Harvard Medical School anymore, but it's the same topic. Professor Benjamin Sanchez, who was a postdoc at Harvard Medical School now, he went to Utah. So this destination will be in Utah. And then he works in this medicine, so he's collecting data from human body, from the neuromuscular system, in particular, he's applying models, like Kalman filtering models, model predictive models to understand the neural system. Neural system. You see that topic-wise, we're covering a very wide breadth of topics, considering to the wide breadth of topics in our school. I cannot guide you. So, with your field of interest, you see that there are topics that some of you might think that they are part of your research. You cannot say, I like this subject, I would like to do research in that domain. You need to say, what is calling my attention? In which something I would like to go and specialize. After now you were a student, you like topics and courses, no. Going to research area. But don't worry, all these topics you are definitely capable of, you have been trained to. Now, all the destinations we have, we move to the south of Illinois. University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, which happens to be, it's not an urban campus, it's a rural campus. It's like more Universidad Autónoma. It's a college town. So in the US, the universities are either an urban campus or a college town. There's a small town between Urbana and between Champaign. In the middle, there's a very, very prestigious university, particularly in the field of computer architecture. Why are we talking to them? Because now they're working in designing networks on a chip, particularly wireless network on a chip. And you want it like a microsystem, but within a chip, or scalable computer in massive network architectures. Professor Torrellas, he was originally from UPC, but not in telecom. He has been working with Intel for 25 plus years. He's very well known, and he's embracing communications at more scalable architectures. That's a cross. That's not a destination anymore. I need to update this with Eva, Jose. I will send a new presentation for Eva. So this is being recorded now. So Intel is not the destination anymore. But the topic, yes. So Dr. Y.K. Chen is still, this was originally a position in this jump country. Santa Clara is the core of Silicon Valley. There was a position at Intel headquarters. Now it's in the same area, Silicon Valley, but it's not Intel, it's Alibaba US. Alibaba US working in Internet of Video. Wireless networks, but sensors include video coding processing. With the network program to be able to exchange video data, like the edge computing or computing, cloud computing of video. So same topic, same area, but it's not Intel anymore, it's Alibaba. Then, for those of you who are interested more into the electromagnetic side, and for those of you that want to say that it was Alibaba, the nuclear bomb was invented in the 40s. You go to New Mexico. I think that New Mexico is a very hot and desertic area, or is it very cold? Very cold. Mountain. Very cold. You go to Los Alamos, New Mexico, and it's one of the U.S. Department of Energy, Los Alamos National Laboratory. They work in the fascinating topic of terahertz metasurface. Remember what a metasurface is? The structure that is able to alter the electromagnetic radiation reflection characteristics of a surface, playing with the nanostructure, like an array within a metasurface. And now this is one of the systems that enabling relay systems in 5G and 6G. You take an indoor wireless channel, just alter the surface, able to reflect. As opposed to the latter side problem. So this is at the verge of metasurface, terahertz science, and nanotechnology in Lausanne. Then if you all have interest in working in spacecraft domain, remember that there are mainly 3 research labs in NASA. Anyone remembers which one they are? NASA. It's either JPL, Caltech, if you far-fetched long-term research. Then they have NASA A in Iowa. And then they have NASA Goddard in Washington. Here is when they really build things that will be launched 5 years from now, 4 years from now, something now. But they really work in mission building. It's a lot of communication problems, electronics problems in 2 missions. This is Goddard Space Flight Center in Washington, D.C. And we have Sessio, a former UPC alumnus. And we have also 2 additional names. One of them is working in, I don't even mention the topic, you take a note. So you work the camera. So the topic is, there's a researcher there working in Earth observation sensor of the spectral cameras for satellites that orbit the Earth and do Earth observation. Hyperspectral cameras, right? For space. Okay, I think that's what we have in NASA Goddard. Any questions there? What else do we have? Then we have UC Berkeley. And remember, there's one of the 7 universities in the California system. UC Berkeley, I'm from San Francisco, across an area, strangers, and then there's Paradise at Berkeley. And then we have a well-known professor working in, they're working so-called in-memory computing or hyperdimensional computing. So computational paradigms that resemble the brain. They're not neural networks. New computational architectures that resemble the brain. But Professor Rabahiro is also the head of the wireless Berkeley Research Center. They 10 years ago created a complete mode for wireless. There are plenty of communication. Then, anyone who's heard about Texas A&M? This is a very high caliber destination in Texas, particularly in aerospace and, and in AA generally, usually ranking around 10 to 15. And then we have two professors, Danny Solomon and Professor Anadia Artiles. They both graduated with a PhD from MIT years ago. They went to Texas A&M. Professor Silva worked in future nanosatellite missions. Now they're working in AI to guide the design of new nanosatellite missions. And then Professor Diaz, Anadia Artiles, did the PhD with the CTO of NASA, who's now the head of the MIT Media Lab. And they work in spacesuits, bioastronaut, the verge of human body biology and technology, working in next generation spacesuits. But I don't even know why this is here, so forgive my, this is an error of mine. This position should be at the beginning in Northwestern University. We were listing three destinations. Here's the fourth one in Northwestern in Boston. Professor Jean-Michel Journet, with a colleague like you, 11 years ago. He took the US mobility program, went to the MIT, then he went for a PhD in Georgia Tech. He was a professor at New York State University and now a world-renowned professor at Northwestern. He worked in multiple fields. Now he's working in miniaturized graphene-based terahertz antennas for measuring the neural tube, among others. That's the field of so-called neural optogenetics. So if you are into electromagnetic antennas, terahertz, but they work also in communicating multiple nodes of that network. There's a lot of physical. Then, University of Nebraska, we have Professor Massimiliano Pierogon, who works in communication networks, but based on exchange of molecules. The new research paradigm is communication network, physical layer, art layer, all the full stack of a communication system. You're not exchanging wireless energy, exchanging molecules. Communication networks for modeling and understanding and treating the body. It's called molecular communications in Nebraska. What are the Then we move to Los Angeles. You're willing to spend 2 hours commuting time, hours back and 2 hours in. Then there's an LA USC, Southern California, San Antonio Ortega, usually from UPM trip. Has been at USC for 10.5 years. It's very well known in the field of image processing, large. As far as I know, has now 2 startups. So some of the visitors work half-time at USC, half-time at here. It's absolutely late with California move. Then I shouldn't mention here Purdue University, Jose. And I asked, how's the relationship with Purdue? We don't have a program now. Is that still on after the pandemic? We don't know.
For research, of course.
So the research is so. I mean, this is the list. We have so Purdue is the top-notch university, ranking 10 highest universities in the U.S. And it's a very strong one. We have a position in image processing, Edward Dell. Independent of that, the other thing is that we have a more solid program where we do good courses and etc. That's a different thing that Professor Macro mentioned or will mention. But research-wise, there will be a position. Then we have another position at UC Davis, which is one of the 7 universities in California. Again, wireless, miniaturizing the wireless communication network so that they can chip what that enables. Then we have a position at Rochester, RAD, and using wireless to improve data centers. So configurable, flexible, wireless connected for the way we have stayed the same. Student recently got accepted and got so there in January. Professor Amla. Then some of you is lucky enough, you will be now early November. Not the best fall color to the occur, which is it's in the IBM headquarters, IBM T.K. Watson Research Center in Yorktown Heights. Half an hour from New York. It's close to where Hillary Clinton lived. Shouldn't say this. And you go to IBM. And we have Dr. Taiwo Wu, who worked in AI, cognitive AI, the new paradigms of AI. Very well qualified. I mean, you need to leave the comfort zone in terms of topics, but you're qualified. If you weren't, we wouldn't close them. So please try to bring your comfort zone. You can say that, but you cannot just say, oh, I like this course and I want to work in that. Not the way research. The specialization courses opens you field of research. Research is here. So, what else do we have? That's more or less the end. Then we have another position at Princeton University, which is not far from New York, around 5 minutes driving south. And then we have Naveen Verma, who happens to be now the associate dean for technology transfer and innovation. And he has a very strong research group working in machine learning co-processors. And also they work in body-aided methods, flexible sensors that result in body-aided methods. Again, I just give a glimpse of the topic and can take a go and browse the research page of this destination. And we also have a position at Mississippi State University, which is software-defined networking and software radio and the like, Professor Vuch Marojevich. And then someone is very lucky and is successful with a 6-month interview process. Try with Google, expert in marketing, in working in AI for the industry, particularly for IoT experts. Now, there are 2 additional positions. So keep your attention here, keep your memory on. This will be circulated with a new incoming set of slides. But we have another destination which was confirmed. Oh, no. Sorry, I take it back. I was about to say that we'll have a new position at CERN working in quantum, but that's not US. But if anyone would like to work in quantum, we could open positions in quantum computing in the US. Either in Intel or in Princeton or in a startup company. That's not the US. But again, let me also take this as an excuse of the way we'll do the interview. When we'll do the interview, you will come in to say, I'm lost. And we'll try to find. Or you will say, want to do this for sure. I'm happy to say, please reconsider. Or perhaps you come with a dialogue, and I help you finding your way. And perhaps in that discussion, you say, like something someone could be very blunt and say, I'm not interested in none of this destination. This is the best we can do. So we have accumulated after 15 years of experience with you. And again, it's one of the strongest US mobility programs. It's paid for sure, but still it would be legitimate that some of you would say, if anyone in the room doesn't like MIT, Google, Mr. Berkeley, your own position. But it could be that you don't see in this list the topic of your choice. That will be legitimate. Then you talk to us. And you say, I would really want to go into quantum communications. I don't say that. Let's talk. Because there are things that are not confirmed, but we are continuously in ongoing negotiations to try to find new topics in this. That you will have a vote in the interview, which I'm about to describe how that interview will be. Feel free to ask for other topics. But don't do that lightly. don't come to the internet and say, I don't like this, I just want to go to the next. So we will have this. But if you have a true, genuine interest in, for example, quantum communication, talk to us. We'll see whether we can explore that. That's part of the personalized process. And then we have the voltage program, which I understand. Also, I understand the voltage program was already announced 2 weeks ago. Voltage program you can apply with anyone can apply in Catalonia, so they have their own regulations.
I have to comment
Yes.
that you have of the two universities, of the same that they have, and the other program. The program and California July. Yesterday, the master's program and founded program by the Universidad de Catalunya. But then those two universities, for those who are their range of opportunities. Maybe potential students with a master there to apply for this program. Colorado Springs is no longer this group because the have to pay some internal resources at the universities and make Colorado Springs.
This is very good to know. So we just said this is a brand new update. So we keep CU Boulder, which is literally the strongest university in central US. Neither West nor East Coast is the stronger, number 20 in the ranking. Super strong in optics, physics, and electrical engineering, and aerospace. Now, oh yes, and then UC Irvine is also quite a strong university. Now, in the past, there was this funded program, was one of the only destinations with funding. It was funded from the Catalan government, and they were opening grants to 5 to 10 students from all over Catalonia. You had to go into a competitive process that was escaping our control. Still, statistically, 1 or 2 students from our school got the position. That's good, because they trust everybody. We've been interacting with them for more than a decade. Right? So, excuse me, the program doesn't exist now from the Catalan government, which means that perhaps there's no such strong competitive concurrence. They will fund the program. But yeah, we can apply to positions here. Excuse me, one of the uniqueness is that they need to have a bit of a bio flavor. A bit of a bio flavor. Take anything that you know from your field of interest. Anything we see from the school, it is the bio. Could be anything. Great, tennis for bio, chips for bio, signal processing for bio, anything. That could be wrong. Cool. Then, how will everyone is now thinking? Should I stay and leave the room? Should I stay? This is me. I will be in my room, in my office always. I will be for you. Don't write an email. I also know that unfortunately I cannot react to emails thousands a day. Call me or come to office, right? But there will be this anticipates the editing. So here's the process. Out of this 50 selected individuals, some of you will be signed up. Let's say 10 of you. So a requisite will be that you have an interview with us. Right? Jose, how is the sequence? So for those, when do you, they need to send the position of the internet to the mobility by the sender?
By 1st of January.
Or January. That's when you need to assign all the destinations in the internet. Now, for the 100 of you in mobility. Now, for the subset that will consider US, where majority, based on principle and statistics, we assume that you think that you will go to the US. It's so clear that you think that you will ask for contribution to the US, and a few of you will say, well, 3 US and 2 Europe. But most of you think this is US customers, right? Now, anyone who has US, don't do US lightly. Don't say Torino and then Norway and then Berkeley. Don't do that lightly. If you really have a genuine interest in going to the US, consider that seriously, apply. But then, no one can go to the US without the interview. And believe us, the interview, it's a way to give credit to you, to get to know you, to help matching your, not there to judge. No one can apply to US without the interview. Right? That interview has to happen during December. So now, early November, in December, we will announce office hours will be November 5th. We've done that remotely in the past 2 years. Now we'll do it face to face. I will just open my schedule 4 hours and everyone goes there and then we'll talk. 15 minutes each of you. How would that interview will be? Be prepared to have a personal position on this. Or describe yourself in anything else you consider. But please try to say why you are. Then you're not at the play. Why do you want? Why research? And what your forward-looking plans are. And we're not asking this because it's a pushy question. We ask this because this is the question that you will be asked if you are finally nominated and will bring you to the US producer. They will ask you, but do you want to do this bachelor thesis or master thesis because you like the topic, or do you have like a midterm plan? Oh, because this wanting to start this research phase because I really want to perhaps continue with the master program, or perhaps continue with or because I would like to go do research in the company, because I would like to continue research. Everything. Have a plan. Have a plan. This is, I know that this sounds like the end, like the culmination of your studies here, and it is, but it's also the beginning of your future. But this question, be prepared. And then try to research beyond what's apparent. Been reading your academic file. Millions of them, we know what's there in your academic file. We know what's apparent in your CV. Describe yourself beyond the accepted information that is talk about yourself. What is it unique from you? In terms of experience, skill, attitude, anything. And then finally, talk about the research aid. Remember the matching, the Sudoku you need to solve now, it's a multidimensional problem constraint. Talk about the research topic. The research topic has to be related to your background experience. Hey, I've been doing telecom, I have an 8 in average mark, but I did a summer internship at the robotics institute. I don't know. Talk about your research experience. And most of you will say, none. That is fine. But if some of you have some research experience, that is fine. And then talk about the past, talk about the future. Even if you have no research experience, talk about the future. Why would you love to specialize in that area? Why? Which area and why? Be prepared. And then try to be as focused as possible. You cannot be vague and say, I want to go in the direction of and say something general of it. Describe yourself. Bring your plan. Right? And that would be it for today. Now we can open a round of questions.
I just wanted to make a remark. I've seen that for the United States, it's a very good opportunity. It's also a risky opportunity because we have more difficult. And it's not that there are agreements signed by institutions. I think the European University is the best effort for the school, and especially for the law, in order to complete this document that was completed at the beginning between your interests, your background, and the profiles of the professors that they are in contact with the school. And this is the best effort, trying to match everything. Yeah?
It's absolutely true.
The message is risky. This could mean that you are going to be bound maybe without knowing exactly or precisely, they're going to have this opportunity of city. Because it will be the best of the course. So they say like if you are asking for a place in the University of Europe, that probably a few months you will have very clear and know exactly when you go and oh yeah. But it is a course, an opportunity that you have in front of you and then you have to decide it's already this or not.
This is absolutely essential. No, thank you. This is essential. I was mentioning this a bit at the beginning. This is essential, has to be very clear. But don't be scared. Let me share with you the evidence of the past. 90% of the people that we select, nominate, go there. I think about 500 people in the past. So we don't say like it's risky, it's not the easy path, but we are here to help you, and the evidence of the past tells us it is likely that if we do things properly, you assess yourself with our help, and you find a way, it's likely that you will go there. Then, out of this constellation of 500 people who have gone in the US, have very fruitful future career. And then they come and visit and say, thanks for the opportunity. This really opened and come with you. This really opened the future. So it's worthwhile the effort. So we're not offering, there's no guarantee that you will accept it. If we have an Erasmus agreement, that you apply for that, there's a position you will go. Here, there's no guarantee that you will go. And we are here to maximize the likelihood that you will be there and it will be a successful experience. Based on our experience, contacts, and why do we go into this effort? Because when you go back or you stay for a period there, you find the company that practically wants that this was fascinating experience. So that's why we keep this very strong US mobility program. But this is not something very administrative. Oh, we're going to cherry pick two destinations within the list and then I play the game. Right?
In terms of tuition fees,
In terms of
tuition fees.
uh,
So how
no tuition. There's tuition waiving because you're doing research in a lab, visiting student researching. That's why no courses. Courses, the same before. A full year tuition will be $100K, $2 away. A single course will be expensive. There are no administrative procedures in place to do so. They're very intricate. Not doing that. You just go there 6 months, like if you cross the street, the campus, and visit the professional, do the master thesis here. Same thing with them. No tuition. So it's an investment in your experience. Unfortunately, we don't have funding for this. Although again, a relevant part of you end up with a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship. But a postgraduate, that's something you cannot negotiate that with a professor. You cannot say, oh, I will come to, here's the process, interview, application, assignment, nomination, acceptance. You need to understand that there's no contact. No tuition, you won't pay tuition, but you have no funding. So the value of the school is offering you this and the interlocution with them. That's what you need to value. We cannot unfortunately fund you. I'm also in charge of the mobility for the fees. For the reason there's funding. I'm sorry. Here we don't have funding. It's many of you, difficult to have funding now, but there's no tuition either. And when you are accepted, don't try to, of course I understand on a personal level that someone could say I cannot do this. Of course I understand. We have no solution to that. But you cannot negotiate and talk to the professor upfront and say, I will go if there's no. The condition that if you go there without funding. But 2 years, once you go there, if you gain the trust of the professor, you work well, and you devote yourself into research. One thing is go in a good way. After 2-3 months, then you say that you're in a lab, you see the reality there, and then they have projects and they have funding, and then they offer something. That's very common, but there's no guarantee. More questions? No pregunta en catalán, esperando. More questions? In any order, yes, go.
Te iba a preguntar si
Language and English.
eh,
If you're allowed to go a year from now to
yes,
US,
well,
we need
this presentation is available
to. Of course.
on internet.
So both presentation and the recording. So your voice is now repeatable.
Okay.
And again, we'll need to tweak a couple of, so this is not ground truth. There will be a couple of tweaks. Sorry, I was descending this here from the chat. Of course.
So, in order to do the.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. I will talk to Professor Lafra and Eva Salvador, who's in charge of mobility, and I will tell them which day of early December, which day or which 2 days I will open my agenda with 4 hours. This is count. I will have it for you. You will know because the school will do an announcement. I mean, similar to the fact that you saw an announcement that, hey, there is a call for a meeting for US mobility, will say, Professor Arcon will be available on December 4th from this to this time. This time to have it. So during 2 years, we did it remotely. We were assigning time slots with Google Meet. It was a burden. This time I will just, I mean, it's 10, 15 of you. Go there and wait. And I will devote my time. Be prepared. So on that day, browse through this destination. First, decide whether you go Europe or US or hybrid, the lesser of you. Then go through destinations. Come prepared with something that caught your attention, something that you clearly decide, and questions. Ask me one, but be prepared. And once you do the shortlisting and ranking, go visit the pages for professor. So gather as much information as you can, and then come up and say, talk about you, questions are. So this, talk about you first. Don't talk about the destination. I need to know you. Because the more I know you, the better I can help you in the process that comes after. So talk about you with this in mind, and then let's go together into potential destinations. Whatever.
Why the quantum research doesn't do? Because you say that there are some mobility programs.
There will be quantum. If anyone, so I would just say quantum topic. Anyone is interested in the interview, I mean, we'll need to open position out of it.
Yes, the destinations, just as said, not for students.
That's a delicate question. So, can I glimpse this at the beginning, but I didn't want to say strongly, because I didn't want undergrad bachelors to leave. Because you are eligible. But truth is, post professors in the US prefer master's here. It doesn't mean that you cannot go as a bachelor. I was giving you a rough number. But practically anyone who's a master's student has a strong enough academic file, you will get some US position. If you're a bachelor, you need a bit higher academic. Your bachelor is less immediate, you will need to negotiate that. If you have a strong academic file and clear attitude, that's so rather speaking, practically everyone who's master thesis student, something decent, from decent to top, will go there. If it's bachelor, a bit higher. But no golden rule. I cannot tell you exactly which. So all destinations is either for bachelor or master. Again, on a one-to-one basis. We'll solve this on a one-to-one. If any of you is a bachelor, has a 5 on average, and they want to go to MIT, apart from that experience, let's talk. And it might well be that in the interview, I need to tell that, sorry, you're not qualified. Because I understand. So, and this is very subtle. Let me leverage your question to talk about 2 things. We will do here the best for each of you. But that creates tension among you. I cannot incur into comparative grievance. So sometimes if you were the only one, you come and say, I probably have 6 in my bachelor, and I would say, well, let's try. But then will be unfair to other candidates. So we'll need to maximize the success of the maximum of you. But I cannot put your intention with another one. And then on top of you, that's why there is competition. And once you are nominated, we'll have a meeting with the dean, with the associate dean, myself, and other colleagues, and we'll go case by case, and we'll make a decision. Nominated, right? And it's after that that we talk about the rest of the process. So you're not alone. I will personalize the assignment for each of you. And I will try to do the best for each of you without creating tensions among you. That's number one. And number two, everything we do internally is to guarantee that whenever we talk to the professor, things go well. So I understand that you could say, yeah, I really don't qualify. I have a 5 in the bachelor, but I want to try Informativa. Just send my file. What can happen is that the host professor, they lose the trust in our school. And this won't affect you, it will affect future students. Right? If you have the ethics and the integrity not to alter the relationship, this relationship is built on trust. We always send to the court. Right? So you cannot, so one red line is saying, I contact the professor, that's a disaster. Another red line is saying, why don't you try? So sometimes we'll need to be a bit strict to keep the relationship with them. It's a balance. We need to make the best for every one of you collectively and keep the relationship with you as a person. That's a very subtle process, even more subtle than the Sudoku. The only thing I can humbly say is trust us. We've been doing this for 500 students. Trust us. It's a very successful story. So sometimes you'll say, the topic of my life will be this. I have to tell you, sorry, you're not qualified. They will say no. If you force the negotiation so that they say no, you can affect the relationship. Then after they say, don't send me the student. This is not a position that's here lightly for free. Right? We need to care. You, us, right? But this will be an open dialogue. So do this. Talk about the topics. We'll guide you, and at the end, the decision is yours. You need to be responsible for your decision. Try to give as much information and as much guidance, but the decision will be. What else? Yes.
Let's work with.
But you have a bachelor thesis pending. The thesis is pending.
Yeah.
You already pending the thesis?
Yeah.
So you don't have the bachelor thesis. You don't have the bachelor thesis is already done.
Yeah.
And you're not enrolled in master. You don't have a pending thesis. That's you're in the middle of nowhere. And interregnum. I don't know for sure. But you know.
We are no longer still in the school.
You're no longer still in the school. Formally speaking. I mean, we can treat you that. We can treat that. I mean, come and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do. But officially, you're not still in our school. You're an alumnus from our school. Okay? If this will depend on me, I will talk to you. Let me know what happened and talk about you. I would have the interview. That cannot guarantee. We'll treat your case as special. Right? Which is good news. Okay. I mean, you need to leave the room today with more information about the program. This is a fascinating opportunity that we're here to help. But the process will be a bumpy ride. Trust our guidance and our experience. It will be a bumpy ride. And we will personalize to every one of you. This won't be an anonymous thing. More questions? Questions, curiosity, criticism? Anything else? Yes.
The website, I saw some other locations that were not in, those locations no longer available.
You're talking about destination in the US?
Yes.
Was one in particular?
Such as Colombia or
Oh, that's another thing. That's another thing. So Professor Laffer is in charge of all the mobility that corresponds to Society International. and then he has cooperators. I'm the liaison with the US. I was associated 10 years ago. And we have this group of faculty is in charge of mobility, coordinated by Professor Lautaro. There are also cooperating other faculties that also have 1 to 3 cooperating. So if that's the case, the first point is our interview. And if in this interview you say, but I'm also interested in colloquialism, that I will relay you, I will just take note, we centralize the list, and I will relay you to talk to another faculty that cooperates and helps with the program. That you can do certain benefits. We need you to be on the administrative database, and we need you to be in the radar of the interview. And sometimes, out of 10 or 15, 1 to 3, then, your particular case, talk to another faculty. Does that make sense?
Yes, possible that maybe because the contact with the university is US is dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there is a new contact and maybe it's not available in the Secretaría
Yeah.
de Internet. Then they're asked because it is a question of updating the information that will happen in that.
Yeah, sometimes it's administrative, so these positions come and go. So it might be that you have something in the list, not it here. That's again something we clarify in the interview. More questions, comments on Wednesday, November the 3rd? 1 year before going. A comment? No? Then take it over.